There were lots of awesome moments with the Ben Shapiro and Megyn Kelly conversation. And I will say it again, but I would have loved to have seen Ben Shapiro and Tucker Carlson in the same room in dialogue with one another, and Megyn Kelly right there, uh, doing the asking the questions and moderating and things like that. But I don't think we're going to see that, because in the last video that I made, Ben read out text messages. He's invited Tucker to talk a number of times, and Tucker has refused. And all Tucker does on a regular basis is lie and attack Ben Shapiro. And what Ben does is he'll attack the ideas. He'll criticize Tucker's ideas. And he got angry about the fact that Tucker recently had Nick Fuentes on. Now, Megyn Kelly, and here's the big difference maker, right? Megyn Kelly said it, and I mentioned it in the last video that I made, that Tucker Carlson is like an 800-pound gorilla, and he will attack. He will fight back. And I don't think Megyn wants to face the 800-pound gorilla, even though she knows that what he's saying and what he's been doing is actually wrong and jeopardizing conservatism. It's hard for me as a Christian to go, you call yourself a Christian, but yet you're platforming someone that is a Nazi lover, a Hitler apologist. He's Stalin lover. He hates women. He hates the Jews. It's hard for me as a Christian to then go, well, why didn't you push back? Why wasn't there any pushback at all? Why was this just like a praising of Nick Fuentes, and trying to mainstream him, trying to push him to the forefront? Why is that happening? And when people like Ben push back and say no, the far right have a full-on meltdown. And we got someone like Megyn that refuses to call out Tucker. She's got, I'm not here to defend Tucker, but he's made the point that Venezuelan communist dictator Nicolas Maduro is culturally conservative. Now, there's a moment that I want to show you, and I dedicated an entire video to this because Ben's reaction was utterly brilliant. Have a watch.
If I see somebody breach basic moral values by having on a Nazi, and in my own view, you take your own view, in my own view, gloss the Nazi, then I'm going to speak out about that, and I'm going to point out that there is a long pattern of him ideologically laundering terrible ideas over the course of the last 2 years, ranging from traveling to Russia to sniff the bread and explain why the Russian regime is actually wonderful, to saying last week that the Venezuelan regime of Nicolas Maduro is actually not that bad because they're being attacked by, in his words, globo homo.
Tucker's made the point, I'm not going to here to be Tucker's defender, but he's made the point that Maduro is culturally conservative.
Who gives a shit? The guy's a communist dictator. Everyone has countries in the world. He's super faithful to the United States to kill Americans. What do you give a shit whether he's anti-LGBTQ rights? This is the number one thing about Nicolas Maduro. You know how far down the list you have to get before you can get to anything remotely recommendable about Nicolas Maduro?
I did.
Absolutely brilliant. So Tucker Carlson makes a claim that Nicolas Maduro is culturally conservative, and Ben Shapiro's reaction, who gives SHIT? Who cares whether or not Tucker says that Nicolas Maduro, a dictator of Venezuela, is culturally conservative? He's nothing of the sort. But it seems rather interesting to me that Tucker Carlson went over to Russia, interviewed Putin, and at the time I was like, well, okay, it's not too bad. We shouldn't be not platforming people. We should hear all sides of the aisle, that sort of thing. But he had no pushback for Putin whatsoever. Obviously, he's in Russia, so he probably couldn't do much pushback. And then you see the interview with Ted Cruz. Lots of pushback. Lots of it. Treated Ted Cruz like he was a joke. A sitting senator, like he was a joke. Tried to humiliate him. But then when he had on the Iranian president and Iran chants death to America, he has no pushback on the response from the Iranian president. And he's doing it by Zoom. Then he has on Nick Fuentes, a openly devout Nazi, as it would seem. Someone who loves Hitler, right? Said it a number of times. He's Team Hitler. And once again, no pushback. So what Ben is saying here is right. If you see something that you know is wrong, call it out, especially if it is in this space. But Megyn Kelly is too afraid to do that. She's too afraid. Ben is not. Even though Ben has, like, I don't know how many security members around him, and his life is constantly made like a living hell because so many people want him gone. Megyn needs to actually show some backbone for a change. She's done so on the left, but when it comes down to her close friends like Tucker Carlson, who is definitely going in the crazy direction on the right, she needs to go, well, I need to either defend him, which is what she's been doing, or I need to call him out. And if you are defending him, you got to ask the question, why? But then you're going, I'm not here to defend Tucker, but he said this, he said that. And Ben rightfully so had the who gives a shit reaction. That's the kind of right reaction that you want, isn't it? Like, seriously, Tucker is a nut job. I can see it. So many people are starting to wake up and realize it as well. Why can't Megyn? I know he's the 800-pound gorilla and he will bite back, and she doesn't want the bite back. She's too concerned about the friendship rather than dealing with the horrible ideas that are coming from someone that needs to be put in his place. I think people these days are so afraid of pushback to do the right thing. They're so afraid to be humiliated. They're so afraid of what's going to happen next. Instead of having courage to call out things that need to be called out. Lies that need to be called out and put into the forefront, and then you actually deal with them and say, these are lies. We need the truth here. And that's why I say you don't go left, you don't go right, you go deeper into Jesus, because Jesus is the truth, the way, the truth, and the life. I think we're forgetting that in the day and age of politics and conservatism. I think we're forgetting what it truly does mean to be a conservative nowadays. And it's being taken over by crazy radicals. And it's been allowed to be taken over by those that refuse to call it out, like Megyn Kelly, who has a massive audience, by the way. And again, I don't hate Megyn Kelly. I love her stuff. She's a brilliant fighter for good things. So why can't she actually have that same fire and that same passion that she goes against the left and actually gets the right in check? Because if she does, mate, that's a good thing. So why does it have to be Ben and a select few others that can actually see what's going on? Megyn, wake up, please. Anyway, that's enough from me, but you guys take care, be blessed, and I'll see you all in the next video.